Hello, welcome to my September wrap up. These are all the books that I have read in the month of September. I read 25 books in the month of September, and that is about average for me. I typically read anywhere from 25 to 30 books a month. This month I had 20 5-star reads, 2 4-star reads, 2 3-star reads, and 1 2-star read. I had a great reading month. Obviously, as if you can't tell, if I had 20 5-star reads. So let's go ahead and get started. The first book I read for the month of September was Share Me by Webster. And this one was a kind of a fail. It was just okay. I rated it 3 stars. This is about a girl who is the daughter of somebody in the politics, and he's trying to, rise up and become, a higher grade politician, and somebody tried to kill her, and his bodyguards that he has hired they have been with them for forever, since she was like younger, and they are put on task to help protect her, and they take her off to this secure location where nobody knows, and this is her romance. It's like a reverse harem type of situation. And I think it's 3 guys, 3 or 4, and it's her in their romance. And it kind of has like a little suspense nature in it where, they have to try to figure out who is after her. And it was just okay. It just lacked a lot of plot and character development. I just didn't feel closely connected to these characters. I felt like the story was very rushed, and their getting involved with each other was very rushed. So I just didn't enjoy this one as much. The next book I read is Omega Academy by Lily Archer. This was about a girl she's a human on Earth, and she is kind of like kidnapped by these aliens that say that she is an Omega. She's like one of the rare, Omegas that are left, and she is taken to this academy in outer space, like on a different alien planet. And there she is, put in this school, and this is also like another reverse harem, but it's also in the Omegaverse world, and she is trying to, kind of cope with like what has happened. She was taken from a horrible situation when she lived on Earth. Her home life was not good, so she didn't really mind it so much, but she still was trying to cope with this whole new world and all this information thrust upon her that she never knew. And so the guys just kind of surround her, and they kind of form their own, not pack, but a bond. And then they realize that they are kind of like fated mates in type of situation. And then I read the second book in that series, which is The Circle, and this just continues on, and there's a kind of like a battle or war being introduced in this book. They have enemies that are trying to kill them, and so they're trying to figure out who are the bad guys. And then they also form this bond with each other, which makes them like the strongest people or aliens in that world. So this was like them fighting against the evil guys or whatnot. So it was a pretty interesting series. I don't know if there's going to be any more in this series, but it was pretty good. I rated both of the books 4 stars. Then I read The Heart Principle by Helen Hoang. I have been waiting for this book for so long. This is the 3rd book in I think the series is actually the Kiss Quotient series. I have been waiting for this book for forever, it seems like. And I cried so much during this book. This book is very emotional. It really kind of shows what the heroine is going through more than the romance relationship aspect of this book, but it does have a sweet romance in it. So the heroine has this family, and she is dealing with her father being sick. Her family does not understand her. She is recently diagnosed autistic, and they don't want to accept that. And she plays the violin. She became famous because she played in this concert, and ever since then she has not been able to finish a piece because she just has like a mind block. She can't finish a piece because she doesn't think she is good enough. And so this is just her kind of like discovering herself, but she also meets the hero, and they have a wonderful romance, and he is so sweet to her. I have seen him throughout the other 2 books, and I was very excited to read their story. Their story, though, is so sad. She goes through so much in this book, so much, and I cried so much. You just have to read this in the right headspace, because it is very emotional. And I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Manhattan by Kandi Steiner. This is the 3rd book in the Becker Brothers series. I had read the first 2 previously and just didn't continue on in the series. And I'm so glad that I continued on this month. This was Mikey's book, and I had kind of heard like mixed reviews about this one, but I loved his book. I absolutely did. So this is about Mikey, and I don't remember her name. But he graduates high school, and he has this girlfriend, and she is like an up-and-coming music star, and they both have plans together until she just kind of totally leaves him in the dust. She goes to Nashville and just, you know, kind of betrays him, and he is just literally heartbroken. And his best friend, who has been there for him since, you know, they were in elementary school, she, you know, stands up beside him and helps him get through this. And it also, she has always loved him, but he has just never kind of seen her like that. He's just always seen her as his best friend. And now he's starting to see her in a different light. And he realizes that he kind of scorned the girl that was always there for him for another. And he just realizes how loyal she has been to him, and how wonderful she is. And this is their romance, and it was so good. I really enjoyed this book. Then I went ahead and finished out the series, and I read Old Fashioned, which is the last book in the Becker Brothers series. This is about the oldest brother, Jordan. He is a high school football coach, and this is his romance with the new she's not a physical therapist, but she's like the football team. When they are injured, she helps assess their injuries, and I don't really remember what they call her, but that's what she does for the school. And this is their romance. She is getting out of a very terrible marriage. She is divorced, but he's the sheriff in town, and you know, nobody would believe her over him. Very abusive relationship, and she has a daughter, and I loved this one as well. I adored the family members in the Becker family, and this also is kind of solves the mystery. And throughout the 4 books in the series, you see kind of the mystery of how they trying to discover how their father was killed, and this was revealed in this last book. And they kind of had justice where, you know, they were lacking that from the beginning. So rated this one 5 stars as well. Then I read Sick Fucks by Tille. This was on my TBR from last month, and this was a doozy. I rated this one 5 stars because it was just so well done. It's just one of those ones that are just completely out there, that it's just like well done to the author, because it's just such a masterpiece that someone could just write a kind of psycho romance like she did. So this is about a girl and a guy, I don't remember their names. They are horribly abused growing up, and he tries to defend himself at some point, and he kills one of the guys, and they send him off and he's in prison for 11 years. And while he's in prison, he's learning, you know, how to come back and save her, because that's like, she is his priority. He's like a psychopath, but she is the light in his life. Well, he comes back 11 years later. She is just totally gone. She's withdrawn from herself because she has suffered at the hands of these horrible men all her life. And she's just a shell of a person that she once was. But he rescues her and draws her out, and she this has a very Alice in Wonderland vibes, because she always was obsessed with Alice in Wonderland when she was little, and now she kind of believes that like she is Alice and that he is the White Rabbit, and that's actually what he goes by now, which is a White Rabbit. And she goes and they start to go on a revenge kill for all the men that wrongly abused them growing up. And this was such a, you know, like psycho killer romance book, and it was well done. Such a wild ride, and my heart absolutely broke for these children that had to go through all this and then turn into these like killers because of all the abuse that they had to go through growing up. But a 5-star read, because Tille Cole is just a wonderful writer, and I've loved everything she's written. And then I listened to this audiobook on Hoopla, and this is the second book in the series. I actually have the first book on my TBR to want to read, but I saw this one and I said, I have to read it. It sounds so good. This is Awk-Weird by Avery Flynn. This is about a hockey player, and he kind of hooks up with this girl one night, and she ends up pregnant. And so she goes to him and says, you know, hey, look, you know, I'm pregnant, you're the father, and I'm keeping this baby, whether, you know, you're going to be in the relationship or not. His dad never was present in his life, so he vowed to be present in his child's life. And then something happens at her apartment where, you know, the water is leaking and it can't be fixed, so she has to move in with him temporarily. So it's kind of a forced proximity, and there they just start to fall for each other, and was their romance, and it was so adorable, and I rated it 5 stars. Then the next book I read was one off my Kindle, one that I have downloaded from Amazon previously for free. And I was so excited to read it because I love alien romances. And this was Zylonn's Human Bride by Sue Lyndon. And this just fell flat. I rated it 2 stars. I wanted to DNF it, but it was so short. I'm like, I'm just gonna finish it. Oh my goodness, this book is so problematic. I can understand where they were trying to go with this book, where it was kind of supposed to be like a dominant submissive type of sort of situation, but it just went over the top, and it just made me mad. I was so mad reading this book, because this is about a girl who, in this time period on Earth, they are the Earth is kind of toxic to live, so they're kind of trading, the humans are trading with the aliens. They'll send up human girls as brides if the aliens send back this type of stuff to be able to live on Earth. So she is selected as one to go as a human bride, and she ends up being married to Zylonn, and he is just really hard. Like, he wants her to like sit at home and clean and for him, and then once he gets home, she has to do, you know, this and this and this, and if she doesn't, she gets in trouble and she gets punished. And it was just over the top. It made me mad. So I just didn't like this book at all, and I gave it a very good 2 stars. Like, I was generous with my rating. The next book I read is Good Girl by Sam Hall. I rated this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I have recently been introduced to the Omegaverse world, and I love reading good Omegaverse books. I know that there are a lot out there that aren't good, and I've just tried to stay away from those. But I love good Omegaverse books, and this was one. It had recently been, you know, written and published, and I loved it. This is about a girl. She is an Omega, and she has been raised by her mother. She knows that she will have to find some alphas to mate with, but she meets this pack of alphas. They have already like formed their own pack because they're in a relationship with their own selves, and I think it's a group of 4 guys, if I'm not mistaken. And she kind of makes a deal with them. It's like, hey, because their fathers are wanting them to find an Omega, but they don't really want to change up their relationship, you know, dynamic. So they say it's like a Bridgerton move where they make a deal with each other that if she's seen with them, then they will introduce her to other respectable alpha packs, and it kind of gets their dads off their backs about finding a mega. So they start to, go to these functions, these parties, and along the way they, fall for each other. She becomes, one of their pack, and there's also kind of a mystery thrown in a little bit, because somebody is after them and you think there is like betrayal, and then it just kind of, there's just this like turning point in the book where you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. So it was very good. I really enjoyed it and rated it 5 stars. And then I read With You Forever by Chloe Liese. I've had this pre-ordered and I was so excited to wake up one morning and see it delivered on my Kindle. I was so excited. I love this family. This is the Bergman brother family, and I adored the first 3 books in the series, and I adored this one as well. This was the one that I chose as my favorite book that I read in September. So this follows the brother Axel, and he is a painter, but he has kind of been in a rut. He has not been able to paint ever since he kissed the heroine from the first book, her best friend. So they were playing like a game of charades. She kissed him, and he has just been entranced with her ever since then. Well, she comes to stay at their family's cabin to just kind of get away and recharge. And he's there fixing up the cabin because it has a lot of damage to it. And so she has to stay with him in his like 1-bedroom cabin that he lives in. And this is their romance, and he is autistic and she has a chronic illness. It is very well done. It just talks a lot about how she suffers from this, and he just treats it so normally, which I really appreciated, because she was always so scared to tell people about what she has, because then people would look down upon her or just think it was, gross, nasty, whatever, or just treat her differently. And when she told him, he was just like, okay. It was just nothing different to him, because it's just a normal part of life, and this was what she dealt with, and he had such sympathy for what she goes through. And like when she would have flare-ups, he was just trying to help her as much as he could, and I thought that was so sweet. I love caretaking in a book, and this kind of had a little bit in there, because he was always trying to help her wherever he could, and he was so sympathetic to her needs, and I loved their romance. This family is amazing. I wish I knew them in real life. I can't say enough about how much I love this book. And then I picked up Pucked Up by Helena Hunting. I have read Pucked a while ago. I think it was last year or the year before, and I just never continue on in this series, and so I picked it up because I just wanted some type of sports romance, and I'm like, well, I need to continue on in this series, and I'm so glad I did, because I binged the entire series. I just read Pucked Up and I couldn't stop. They were just wonderful. I read one after the other. So of course I rated every single one of them 5 stars, because how could you not? Pucked Up follows the brother of the heroine from the first book, and this is his romance. His name is Buck. It's his romance with Sunny, and she is just kind of like a sweet kind of naive type of girl. She just hasn't really had much worldly experience. Her brother is actually the hero from the first book as well. So this is their romance. Of course, he has kind of been a playboy. He's kind of been since he is a hockey star, he has just kind of been known to be with the women. The Puck Bunnies is what they're referred to, and there's pictures that pop up that kind of incriminate him in a bad light, and so he has to kind of like reassure her that that's not what it looks like did not happen, and their relationship was awesome. And I loved throughout the entire series, it shows they're very tight-knit group of friends, and you see every couple in every book, and they're strongly highlighted. Even if it is another couple's romance, you still see all the other characters a lot, and I love that because a lot of the each character is just great. You know, it just wouldn't be the series without them, and I just loved it. I can't tell you how much I love the series. The next one I picked up in the series is Pucked Over. This book follows Lily, and she was the friend of Sunny from the second book. She has just gotten out of this relationship. It's kind of been on and off for years, but he's just not been very good to her. And she ends up just having a fling with one of the hockey team members. His name is Randy. He is not, you know, he's scared to death of relationships. He is not a relationship guy. He's never, you know, if he thinks a girl has gotten up to where she's falling for him, he cuts it off. He's like, nope. And so they agree to have this fling together, and whenever they're with each other, you know, they are always very into each other until she admits that she has feelings for him. She's like, you know, it happened, I have feelings for you. And so she cuts it off, and then he realizes that he is in love with her as well. And this was their romance, and it was so great. I love Lily and Randy, and of course all the other characters in the series. And then I read Forever Pucked. This is the story, this kind of goes back to the first couple from Pucked. This is Violet and Alex's story of when they get married. So they have been engaged, now they're going to get married. She gets hives every time wedding planning is spoken of. Both of their mothers are insistent upon having this big glamorous wedding, and that is not what she wants. She wants something small, and this is, I won't tell you what happens, but this is the book of when they get married. And it was also great. I didn't think I was gonna love it as well, but I loved being back with Violet and Alex and everybody else. Then I read Pucked Under, which is based on Randy and Lily again, which it also focuses on all the other characters strongly as well, but it's mainly about Randy and Lily. And he has always had a sore spot in his life, which is his dad, and he kind of shows up, and he never wanted Lily to meet his dad, and he is staying with them, much to Randy's, you know, not wanting him to. And he is there, and Lily is just kind of seeing a side that Randy never wanted her to see. And this also revolves around kind of before the hockey season starts again. All the couples take like this vacation together, and so this was just kind of an in-between book, focusing on what they're going through without actually going to the next couple's romance. And I love this one as well. I didn't think I was going to love it as well, but I did. And then I read Pucked Off, which is Lance and Poppy's story. Oh my goodness, this one was a little heavier than the others, but so good. I loved their romance. So Lance is one of the hockey players, and he has just been kind of a playboy through and through, and he is just, his reputation is just known for kind of, you know, having all the puck bunnies. And he meets this girl, and she actually is a massage therapist, and he really can't stand touch because of his mother was abusive to him, but her touch is like the only touch that he can get, you know, deal with. And she is a figure from his life previously that he doesn't remember until, you know, his memories kind of come around later. And she is somebody that kind of pops up into his life later, and she has always thought of him and remembered him very fondly until he doesn't remember her. That kind of, you know, was a blow to her, and until he remembers her, and they try to give their, you know, relationship another go, until he's caught in, you know, a compromising situation with an ex, and not to his fault though. And she, you know, it looks completely wrong, and so then they that's kind of a conflict in their relationship, and they have to work at, you know, he's got to try to work to get her back. And it was heartbreaking because, you know, she was like the only light in his life, and she left, and he was just absolutely heartbroken. Just pretty much that was took away all the light in his life, and both of them had suffered so much. This one made me cry because of some of the things that, you know, he had to go through that made him the person he is. But it was so good. I love their romance. And then I read Puck Love. This follows the other hockey player. I don't remember his name. His name is escaping me right now. But he has been kind of in a relationship with, not even a relationship, but kind of, they've just kind of been friends with benefits sort of situation. And she is best friends with Violet from the first book. And they have had a sexual relationship. And because she has dealt with a lot of things in her life, which makes her scared of relationships, and he doesn't really know anything about her past, and then it all kind of comes out, and he, you know, has to try to find a way to be together with her, try to break down the walls that she has erected, because trying to protect herself from that situation ever happening again. And this was their romance. I didn't love it quite as much as the others, but it was still a 5-star read. It was a good book in the Puck series. So glad I read this series. I think I only have one other book that I need to read, which is the Pucks and Penalties book, which kind of has all the little short stories in it. So I do want to read that one soon, but other than that, I binge read the Puck series. Then I realized that Giana Darling came out with a novella in the Fallen Men series. I had to immediately read it. I was like, oh my goodness, I have to read it. And this follows, I can't really give you a lot of details about this book because, for one thing, it's a novella. It's very short. But because of something that happens in one of the previous books, where the king, which is the president of the motorcycle club, his son, had to kind of sacrifice himself in order to save the club. And the mystery about that is revealed at the end of that book, but of course I don't want to say to ruin it, but this is kind of where they heal from that situation. It has just all left the whole entire motorcycle club just heartbroken and grieving, and this is how they heal from that. And it's such a beautiful experience. I cried throughout this throughout this entire novella. It was beautiful, and I could just feel all their emotions, and it was so good. I've never had a novella hit me quite that hard before, and I rated it 5 stars. And then I picked up A Lie for a Lie by Helena Hunting. I saw that this was kind of a spin-off series from her Puck series, so I started it. This is the book surrounding one of the new players that you saw introduced at kind of the end of the Puck series, and he later on becomes captain of the hockey team. And when Alex from Puck, when he retires, and he kind of takes his place, and this is his romance with this girl. They met at this remote place in Alaska. It was family tradition for him and his brother and his dad to go to this place, but his dad died and his brother wasn't able to come. So he was still going to take like this vacation to this cabin in Alaska. She was there to study dolphins, and her cabin ends up being a total shack and hardly worth being able to live in. So she kind of like moves in with him during the duration of her stay, and they hit it off, and they have a great, I think, 6 weeks together. But he has to leave really abruptly. There is some kind of emergency going on back home, and he leaves without telling her his number. And he doesn't really even give her like his full name. He doesn't even tell her that he's a hockey star, because he just enjoys her knowing him for who he is and not being this, major hockey player. And she tries, she leaves him a note, and when he goes back, he can't find the note. He doesn't see the note. So they don't know. She tries to find him, but the information that she thought he was an alpaca farmer when his family used to be, but they just cannot find each other until one day when he is with the hockey team from Pucked, and they are at one of the kids' birthday parties, and they're having a birthday party at like this aquarium, and she works there, and he sees her, and he gives her his number, and they reconnect, and then she tells him that she had a baby, that she was, you know, pregnant by him, and she never could find him to tell him, and now his baby is like 4 or 5 months old, and he discovers, you know, he has a son now, and he tries to step up to the plate, and she's kind of wary about it because she doesn't want him to take her son. And then this is their kind of second chance romance to you know, work it out and become a family, and it was amazing. Loved it so much. Helena Hunting has become an author that I want to read everything she writes. And then I began a reading vlog. I will have it listed in the description below. I wanted to read some books that are highly recommended from some of my favorite booktubers, and so the next 6 books will be in that video. I read Make It Sweet by Kristin Callihan. This is about a girl who stars in this popular TV show, but they're killing off her character. She's losing her job. She finds her boyfriend cheating on her. Her life's just down in the dumps. So is the hero. He is a hockey player, but he has had an injury that is going to be able to, you know, he's no longer able to play. So his life is just, you know, has been turned upside down. And they go to stay at his grandmother's place. She has a very relaxing estate, and they decide to go stay there, and they meet each other, and the grandmother kind of like low-key match makes them together, and this was their romance, and it was so cute and adorable, and I loved it so much. I rated this one 5 stars. The next one I read is Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is the first book I read by Tessa Bailey, and I loved it as well. I rated it 5 stars. It is the second book in that series, so I want to go back and read the first one. But this is a marriage in trouble. This is the, you know, they've already had their romance, but now they are not communicating with each other. They barely have anything to do with each other, and so she leaves, and he is heartbroken. And she says, you know, the only way we can attempt to even, you know, think about getting back together is going to marriage counseling. So they start therapy, and they start to realize that they have just kind of been speaking the wrong love language to their spouse, you know, what he needs versus what she needs, and then they have to kind of like learn to do that for each other and communicate. And this was them like falling back in love with each other, and it was so adorable. I loved it so much. And then I read Misadventures of a College Girl by Rowe. This one was so great. This is about a girl who goes to college. She's a virgin. She's looking for an experienced, you know, guy to pop her cherry for the first time, and she chooses this football player, and he just kind of puts the brakes on it after he finds out she's a virgin. It's like, wait, your first time needs to be, you know, special and mean something. And so, you know, they kind of banter back and forth, and they end up being on a couple of class projects together, and so they decide to have a fling for like the next 6 weeks. They end up falling in love with each other, but they know that, you know, he's going off in one direction to become an NFL football player. She wants to continue her journey at college and then one day end up on Broadway. So, you know, their lives are leading in 2 separate directions, and they have to figure out what they're going to do about it. It was so good. I love this one. And then I read A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This was a Dracula retelling, and I rated this one 3 stars. I didn't quite love it as much, but it was very interesting and unique. So Dracula has collected these brides through time, and this is one of his brides, like, diary retelling of how she came to know, or how she was created by Dracula, and the journey on how they ended up killing him because he just was ruthless and heartless, and they kind of like took back their freedom that he stole from them. Then I read The Risk by St. Abbey. This is the first book in the series, and I've been binging the rest of them in October, so you can hear what my other thoughts on the rest of the series are in my October wrap up. But I read the first one in September and I absolutely loved it. It's also like another it's a killer romance, and she is a serial killer because of people who wronged her and her brother in the past. She has a horrible abusive past, and she has just kind of like become this other person to take revenge on all the people that wronged her and her brother, because her brother actually died. And she ends up falling in love with an FBI agent and this book was amazing. And the last book I read is Unhinged by Onley James. This is also another killer romance. So this guy adopts 7 boys, and they all have like psychopath tendencies. He raises them to become killers for, you know, justice, killers to take out evil people. One of the sons is Adam, and he kills, when he's 16, he kills this awful man. Well, his son comes back years later, finds out who did it, and comes to kill Adam. And instead of killing him, Adam kind of helps tell Noah, like, hey, your dad was very awful and evil, and memories start coming back to Noah, and they end up dating, they're in a relationship. And then they also kind of figure out that the things that Noah's dad was a part of, it was much bigger than they had originally thought. So this is like their way of getting revenge and taking out the people that have been doing all these horrible things all this time. Loved it as well, rated it 5 stars. So those are all the books that I read in September. Let me know what you guys read, or if you've read any of these. Tell me how you like them. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.